I'm delighted to welcome today, all the way from Ireland, Johann Callaghan, who is known as the Sleep Success Coach. Welcome, Johann.
Hi, Elaine. It's great to be here.
Thank you for joining us. So, sleep is a huge subject, and we could go anywhere with this. We probably will end up going anywhere, to be honest, because I know you've got a lot of experience in this field. Um, why sleep? Why have you concentrated on sleep?
Oh, obviously, my own personal experiences, like throughout life, I had many different bouts, many different periods in my life where I wasn't able to sleep well, and the consequences of that really impacted me. My father was an alcoholic, and there were many sleepless nights in the house. I was the only one in my family who worked for a very long time, so I was getting up really early in the morning and going to work absolutely exhausted. And I caught more flus and colds, as a result of that. My immune system was down. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't even hold a conversation with people. It was really, really bad. And then, there was various other stages when I was pregnant, and I had restless legs, and I cried at the side of my bed for the want of a good night of sleep. And then I lost my daughter later on in life, and so I went through a whole grieving process, and I was desperate to get sleep. And so, how I came to write my book was when I started my whole journey of the entrepreneur. Um, I started to train in holistic therapies like massage and reflexology and energy therapies, Reiki, all that kind of thing. And when I met my mentor, he told me to write a book because this would help to elevate and give me more credibility. So I didn't know what to write a book about, and I had to think about it. What are my clients coming to me? What are they complaining about? What are they most frustrated with? What are they suffering from? And nearly everyone was coming to me. They'd no energy. They were exhausted. They couldn't think straight. So I wrote a book on sleep. And it was when I wrote that book on sleep, it's called How to Get a Good Night's Sleep. And the research that I did and what I found and what I came across was so profound, how it impacts us when we don't sleep well, how it impacts us physically in our body, all the diseases it can contribute to, and how it's correlated to all these, and inflammation. And inflammation is huge, that's behind every disease. How it affects us emotionally, and how that what occurs in the brain as a result of that, how it affects us even spiritually. So it impacts us negatively on so many different levels. No matter what age you are, we all need sleep for different reasons. And it's actually vital for our survival. We can't survive without sleep. So I decided, oh my God, people have got to realize how important sleep is as part of their healthy lifestyle. Yes, nutrition is important, exercise is important, but in my opinion, sleep is the foundation of all our health, because when you sleep well, then you will have the energy to go out and go for your walk or make a nice meal and put the time into doing that. If you haven't slept well, you're not going to have the energy to do those other things and do them well. So, sleep really does impact all areas of our life, and also the other health pillars as well. They're all equally important, and they all do marry together and work optimally together. But sleep, in my opinion, is really the foundation of all our health. So that's why I got into the whole sleep area. It's just so super important, and we need to have a new awareness or a new relationship with sleep and how we think about sleep. So that's my mission, is to really create this awareness of how important sleep is for you and your family.
So, how much sleep should we be getting? There's conflicting advice. Some people, I mean, we all know about the Maggie Thatchers of the world and people who exist on, 2 hours here, 4 hours there, and maybe a cat nap in the day. I mean, is that healthy?
No, it's not. And really, consistency is key, because our body, we have just evolved through routines and rhythms, and we've evolved thousands and thousands of years this way. So, consistency is always key to the body, right? And so, it's all about habitual stuff. Um, but we all have different requirements. So, depending on what age you are, so obviously, a younger infant will need more sleep because they're still growing and developing, and the teenagers are going through puberty. And then we come into young adulthood and adult life years, and then midlife, and then elderly age. So typically, a healthy adult would need between about 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And it's not set in stone. You know, we all have different requirements, but I think it's up to each and every one of us to listen to our bodies and understand how much sleep it is that we. So some people can get by on 6.5 hours, some people may need 9 hours of sleep. So we really have to listen. But ideally, when we can wake up in the morning time without an alarm clock, so in other words, waking up naturally, and when we feel refreshed and ready to go for the day, that's how we know we've had enough sleep for our bodies. So that's ideally. But obviously, in the world we're living in, our wake up time is socially determined, you know, if we to go for work or whatever. But that ideally is how we can determine. But it's really important that we listen to our bodies, and we are all individuals and we all have different needs as well. So that's kind of a guideline that we can work by.
Wonderful. I'm very lucky lucky. I mean, it's habits. We choose how we live, don't we? So um, I wake up naturally around about 7 o'clock in the morning now, regular as clockwork, bit before, bit after, but always round about 7 o'clock ish. Doesn't matter what time I go to bed. And then every now and then I'll have I might even have an 8 o'clock or a 8:30. I don't need to get up, specifically for anything. So my body has naturally sorted itself out. But I went through years of only having a couple of hours here and a couple of hours there, and it was not sustainable on a long-term basis. And that's the thing, isn't it? We can all manage on a short-term basis lots of things, but it's if on a long-term basis things build up and build up. So how did you transition then? I mean, do you still do all these other natural therapies and Reiki and everything?
Yeah, I do a small amount of it just for regular clients that I've built up good relationships with. So yeah, I actually have. I'm actually operating here at the moment from my therapy room. So yeah, I would take in clients, and I also mentor them around sleep as well, because an awful lot of them would have concerns about not sleeping well or not having enough energy. So I am a health coach as well, a certified health coach. So I can speak to them about those different areas, you know, diet, nutrition, all that kind of thing as well. So, but an awful lot that I see is anxiety, and I think this is the biggest culprit when it comes to not being able to sleep is anxiety and all the different stress levels that we have in the world that we're living in at the moment. I think that's the biggest, and a lot of people don't recognize that. A lot of people, there's something wrong with the mechanics of their sleep, but most of the time that's not the case. It's our inability to slow down and to relax, because our sleep is not like an on-off switch that we can just switch a button and just, you know, go asleep. It takes a winding down routine. You know, our body temperature has to cool down, our brain waves have to slow down. There's actually a process. And if we can't switch between the two different nervous systems, the rest and digest and the fight or flight that we're constantly living in during the day, then this is going to cause a problem with our ability to relax in the evening, so that we can wind down naturally and have this onset of sleep, this natural onset of sleep. So that's where I see most the biggest problem is anxiety.
So what kind of process are you referring to? What would be a good healthy habit to get into for listeners?
You know what? There's lots of different things, right? But really, again, it's not necessarily the mechanics of sleep. So it's what we're doing during the daytime. So it's the lifestyle that we're keeping. So I always say to people, you know, the one most important thing is how you wake up in the morning. So waking up at the same time every morning is crucially important. And you, Elaine, said sometimes you go to bed a little bit later or whatever, but you will always wake up in and around the same time in the morning, because this is where we reset our circadian rhythm. Is first thing in the morning when we wake up. So this is why consistency is key, and waking up, even if you go to bed at different times at night, waking up at the same time, because it literally resets your whole day and resets your whole rhythm. And we've evolved with these circadian rhythms. This is a 24-hour biological process, if you like. We have all these different systems and hormones that are released at certain times during the day, and it's consistent, if you like, in this 24-hour period. So I always tell people how you start your day is going to determine how well you sleep at nighttime.
Mm.
So waking up at the same time every morning and getting sunshine within 15 minutes of waking up, getting some sunshine or daylight. If you're living in Ireland, we don't have much sunshine, but daylight helps to reset that circadian rhythm. It helps to wake us up, and it helps to switch off that melatonin, which is our sleep hormone. So daylight will switch off your melatonin and really help you to reset the day. So how you start your day and create a morning routine is super important. So start your day off intentionally. Don't start your day off hitting the ground running, rushing. That's what so many people do. They're straight away onto their mobile phones, checking emails, and they're automatically responding to other people. You're giving your power away first thing in the morning. So I call it the power hour or the golden hour. So really set up the first hour of your day intentionally, and it really helps you build up and create the day ahead, setting intentions, what it is you want to create in the day, what it is you want to fulfill or do during the daytime, whether you're a housewife or you're an entrepreneur or you're a professional. It doesn't matter. You need to set up your first hour powerfully, because for so many people we're giving our power away, and this contributes to stress and anxiety. So the first hour of your day is very important.
How about the other end of the day then? So we've woken up naturally. We've had some daylight. We've approached the day with a calm good intentions. So at the other end of the day, what routines should we be doing? Should we be
Yeah.
having any routines?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So first thing in the morning, we have these two hormones, cortisol and melatonin. So I've spoken about melatonin, which is our sleep hormone. So we obviously have a lot of that during in the late evening and during the nighttime, which helps us sleep. So that's a very important hormone. But cortisol is on the opposite side. These are like dancing partners. So cortisol is highest in the morning time. So we need cortisol to be high in the morning to get us out of bed. A lot of people think cortisol is the baddie. It's one of the stress hormones, but we do need cortisol. But we need cortisol to slowly dissipate during the day. We need cortisol to reduce in the evening time to allow the onset of melatonin. So these two hormones are very important when you look at the two of these in relation to our circadian rhythm. So we do need to wind down in the evening time to allow cortisol to reduce, so as to allow the onset of melatonin. So what can we do? Well, we need to, the last hour in the evening, as we are preparing for bed, because we have these physiological processes, our body temperature has to cool down, our brain waves have to cool down, or slow down rather, our heart rate, our blood pressure, all these have to slow down to allow the onset. So we do need to do practices that will allow us to slow down, if you like. Now, this could be just simply sitting down and reading a book. It could be watching a bit of TV before bed. But if you are watching TV, I always say to people, mind the content of TV. And some people say don't watch any TV before bed. I say don't have a TV in your bedroom. But it could be a relaxing technique, to watching a nice comedy or something like that. And maybe some gentle yoga exercise, maybe a gentle stroll, a walk, but something that's slowing your systems down. Maybe having a hot bath. There's loads of different things that we can do, but ideally we want to find something that we enjoy doing so that we will do it without, I have to do this. We don't want to be, I have to do this type of thing, because it's a bit of a pressure. So whatever it is that you enjoy doing, but winding down is super important for these reasons, because you want the core body temperature to cool down, because the onset of sleep cannot happen if we've just done a 5K jog literally just before we're going to bed. Our core body temperature is going to be up. So this is going to cause a problem. And I have actually had clients, Elaine, where they're so desperate to get a sleep at nighttime, they will go and do a 5K run right before bed to make themselves exhausted.
Wow.
But in fact, it's having the opposite effect, because it is core body temperature issue. And plus you've got a lot more adrenaline in the body as well. So yeah, so this is really why it's important to wind down in the evening time. It's having these two hormones in mind and really slowing everything down in the body.
We read a lot about the blue light and different lights and the EMFs and all that sort of thing. So what effect does that have on us with sleep,
Yeah,
particularly with young people?
huge, absolutely, absolutely huge. And I've a pet hate. Technology is great, um, but we're not using it in the right way, and we're not using it at the right times. either. So we need to have a respect for technology. Now we can't escape technology. It's here to stay, it's getting faster, it's getting better. Every teenager nearly has a mobile phone at this stage. My daughter is 11 years of age. Everybody in her classroom, bar her, own a mobile phone. Personally, I think that's far too young. I think it's very irresponsible, and I'll tell you why. So the problem with technology and using technology at nighttime, the blue light that's emitted from our mobile phones actually mimics daylight. So it's very confusing for the brain. And our eyes actually take in light information. This is one of the functions of the eyes. A lot of people think it's just to see with, but it's actually one of the functions of the eyes to, which controls our circadian rhythm, this 24-hour biological process. So light information is really important when it comes to maintaining our circadian rhythm. Um, so the light is one thing. The other thing with mobile phones or electronic devices is this dopamine effect. So dopamine is a neurotransmitter in our brain. It's an excitatory neurotransmitter and it keeps us engaged. It's like the seek and reward neurotransmitter. So you might find if you're scrolling through Facebook or whatever social media, you may find I'll just do this for 5 minutes and a half an hour later, you're still on it. So people find it very difficult to come away. So you lose track of time, but also you're increasing this dopamine effect, which is exciting the brain waves. And we want to slow the brain waves down. So it's keeping us addicted. And one of the reasons why I hate to see so many young children with mobile phones is because there's a very good video, in fact, there's a few by Simon Sinek, and he talks about technology. And he compares it to um, gambling and smoking and all these addictive nature, alcohol. And there is an age limit of 21 in some countries for using these substances because it creates this neural pathway, this dopamine neural pathway, which has people addicted. Um, and when we talk about addiction now, I'm not qualified in this whole area because it's very specialized. But when we talk about this dopamine pathway and addiction, we can be addicted to more than just substances. We can be addicted to like there's food and there's so many things that we can be addicted to. But it's this dopamine pathway, and when it comes to mobile phones, um, it's this exact same pathway, and it's keeping us addicted. But there's no regulation, there's no age limit on children owning mobile phones like there is for smoking or alcohol or gambling. So when you put it into that perspective, it's like, oh my God, it can be quite dangerous. And I think there's a big ignorance. I know there's reasons why parents give young children mobile phones, but I think we've got to look at the responsibility and what's physically happening in the body as well. And then we talk about EMF, which can impact right down to the cellular level, right down to the mitochondria, which is our powerhouses, our energy sources of all our cells. And it has been shown in scientific studies, many, many studies, that EMF is affecting us right down to the cellular level. And we see people with mobile phones up to the head as well. And we've seen the imaging scans where the head is heating up from all the EMF. And in fact, if you look at your handbook or in the safety part of your phone, it actually says not to place the phone within an inch of your head. So not many people are aware of that, but there's a lot to be said. We could do a whole hour talking about mobile phones and EMF and all of that, but we definitely need to be respectful and be mindful, and use them at the right times as well, Elaine. So that's really super important.
Absolutely. I find actually in this day and age, people very rarely phone me. It's mostly video calls. And if I do have a phone call, I've got my phone on speaker and I'm holding it in my hand. I've not for years. I learnt about this many years ago. But as you say, not many people are aware of it because we're not overtly taught about it, are we? So hopefully listeners will pick up some tips from this conversation. Tell us about weight gain, weight loss, etc., and sleep. What's the relationship there? Because that's very strong as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually have a whole course on how to lose weight while you sleep because it's so profound, and a lot of people don't relate sleep with losing weight. Like how can you possibly, you're not doing anything, you're just sleeping at nighttime, so how can you possibly lose weight, right? So this is the perception. But in fact, our body, when we're sleeping at nighttime, we're in a very different state during the nighttime than we are during the daytime. Where, during the daytime we're breaking everything down, and at nighttime we're building everything back up again. And there's various hormones at play in these two different states. So at nighttime, we have our growth hormone, which is um, the growth hormone comes out in our deep phase of sleep. So we have different phases, different parts of our sleep architecture, if you like, and they're all equally important. But our deep sleep is where all the healing repairing is done, and this is where the growth hormone comes out. But the growth hormone is a fat burning hormone. And for many people, um, we eat very late at nighttime, and we also eat very heavy meals at nighttime. Many people eat a lot of protein, which takes a long time to digest. And our bodies were never meant to digest food at nighttime when we're sleeping. Like thousands of years ago, when we lived in caves, we only ate during the daytime. We had a very small window where we ate. And we've evolved this way, so our body has grown and adapted to this way of living. But now in our modern world, we're eating, like we're just eating nonstop, and we're eating really heavy meals, and it's very taxing on the body. But there's a big problem with insulin. And, when there's 6 out of 10 people in Ireland are either overweight or obese, and this can lead to um, diabetes and chronic heart disease, and this is the number one killer in the world. Stroke, all this sort of thing. And when we have an awful lot of weight, there's a lot of inflammation in the body then, because our fat cells store more toxins in our body, and there's more inflammation. So sleep can help if we allow our body to go into this fasting state at nighttime, time restricted eating. And what that basically is we ideally should be fasting for at least 12 hours. And this is during the nighttime. Now, at least 12 hours, we can do for 12, 16. It has been shown that when we give our body this break, it drastically reduces inflammation. And inflammation is behind every disease on some level. But we can optimize our body, and we can allow our body to heal more effectively when we are fasting during the nighttime. And this can help to control our insulin levels, because when we have too much insulin in the body, and by the way, when we have insulin in the body at nighttime, it um, it does not allow for the growth hormone to come out and implement. And the growth hormone is where all the healing and repairing is done. All our new blood cells, all our new cells have been made and created. But it's a fat burning hormone as well, and it doesn't work optimally when we have too much insulin in our body, especially at nighttime. So this is why it's so super important to have this time restricted eating at nighttime. So there's lots I could go into. Another one I'll just say as well, Elaine, which is really important, is when we're sleep deprived, we have two hormones called ghrelin and leptin. And leptin is our satiety hormone, which makes us feel full. It's actually what stops us from eating when we've eaten too much. Otherwise, we could keep eating, because so many of us are addicted to our foods, and 80% of the food in our supermarket is addictive. There's all sorts of, it's all processed and ultra processed foods and all of this. And we can be addicted to these foods. But the leptin stops us from eating and makes us feel full. It tells our brain when we're full and we need to stop eating. And then the other one, ghrelin, is what makes us hungry. Because obviously we need food for energy and other reasons as well. But when we're sleep deprived, these two hormones are out of sync, and our ghrelin hormone makes us even more hungry. But not only does it make us hungry, it makes us eat the wrong types of food. And so many of our foods have sugar in them these days. And sugar is just addictive. But not only are we eating the more food, we're eating more the wrong types of food, more sugar. This is creating more impact on our insulin and insulin resistance, and obesity and overweight and all this sort of thing. So those two hormones are out of whack when we're sleep deprived as well. And it has been shown in scientific studies, loads and loads of studies done to show this. And we're just craving the wrong types of foods. So we go and we eat, biscuits and cakes and takeaway foods rather than healthy foods. So it just makes sense to sleep well and to really understand what's going on in the body when we're sleep deprived.
Absolutely. What were the names of those two hormones you said again?
Ghrelin, so it's GHRELIN, ghrelin, and leptin.
Right.
And
Okay. Thank you.
I think of, have you ever seen that film, The Gremlins? These little cute creatures, and you don't feed them after midnight, otherwise they turn into little monsters. So the gremlins often remind me of the ghrelin hormone
Yeah,
for
that
that
makes
reason.
sense. Yeah. Hormones play an incredible part in regulating our health and well-being, don't they? So talk to us a bit about the hormones, particularly relating to midlife and menopausal
Yeah,
stuff.
that I mean, women. There's two main reasons why um, women do not sleep as well as men, especially in the midlife years, and it's because of the hormones and aging. Um, so for the women, we go through menstrual cycles, right? So we have our own cycles, and so when we come to midlife years, obviously our hormones, all of our hormones start to decline, but that doesn't mean that we're going to have more pain and more upsets. It doesn't necessarily mean there's a lot that we can do before menopause or this change, this transition in our life. And it's really important that because it can take 10 years or 15 years for things to manifest in the body. And our body is very forgiving when we're younger. So this is why there needs to be more of an awareness to really look after our bodies when we're young, and especially when it comes to midlife, because it's this decline in hormones, but it's the big decline that causes the problems. We associate menopause with hot flashes and migraine headaches and all that kind of thing. But as a woman has her menstrual cycle, when she ovulates, after she ovulates, the hormones change. And when we talk about body temperature is very, very important when it comes to regulating our sleep cycle. But the way our hormones work after ovulation, our body temperature increases, which conflicts with our sleep. So our temperature regulation goes out of whack because of these hormones. And that's just in the menstrual cycle. But this also happens when we come to midlife as well. So our estrogen and progesterone are significantly dropping. And estrogen plays a really big part in our sleep wake cycle as well, and our body temperature control. So this is why a lot of women experience the hot flashes at nighttime. So I often say to people, stress is a huge, huge, huge part in midlife. And the more we can manage stress, the less of an impact this can have on our body. But I also say to people, sage is a very good thing to take. You can take the sage drops, or there's just sage tablets you can get in the health shop, and this helps to regulate or control the temperature. But also eating plant-based foods, with the estrogen type plant-based foods can really help with this decline in estrogen as well. But really, there's lots of different things that we can do. But I think if we can manage our diet and our lifestyle even years before we come into this stage of life, it can really help dramatically reduce how drastic these changes can negatively impact our body.
It's you're very knowledgeable, Joanne. It's lovely listening to you talking. Um, I've interviewed many experts on menopause, and every single one has agreed with me that what you've just said. When you go into the menopausal years, pre-menopause, in a healthy state, then you're less likely to have problems. And I'm a case in point. I just luckily it was 7 days before I had my mastectomy back in 2009. I had my last period, and I've never had one since, thankfully, and I've never had any menopausal problems either. So that was proof, because 20 years before then, I cured myself of a kidney disease I was born with, and I learnt about eating and living well and nutrition and plant-based foods and sleep and all the rest of it. So I was very fortunate that I had a 20-year run-up in which my body was already, doing good things. So yeah, each phase of our life we have different challenges, and you mentioned stress, and I know that at midlife, at a time when women are changing hormonally, they've got masses of stress because many
Yeah.
are dealing with elderly parents, grandchildren, and or teenagers or whatever. So there's so many stresses, and women typically tend not to look after themselves first. They look after themselves, if at all, last.
100%, Elaine, 100%. You've got like all sorts of stuff, and you may still have young. Like I've an 11-year-old daughter at the moment. Um, my mother is fine, thank God. But yeah, there's a lot of people caring for their parents. Then you could have grandkids been dropped on you. I'm a grandmother as well, by the way. But I don't have that. Although I would love to see more.
Mhm.
Be careful what I wish for. But yeah, there's a lot going on, and then you're minding the household, and you could be an entrepreneur as well, like me, you know, because many women are working now.
Mhm.
So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of different role models and a lot of the different hats that we're putting on. So a lot we're juggling with, and it is so super important that we look after ourselves. And I think self care, self love, so many people people in general are giving themselves a terrible time. That we're all very hard on ourselves as
Mhm.
human beings, and we don't stop to acknowledge what we've achieved in our lives. And because I think that's the biggest thing, we beat ourselves up so much, and then we have this "I'm not good enough" and this imposter syndrome and all this sort of thing that we hear about, self-esteem problems, self-worth. And I think it's a huge area. So especially for the midlife woman, because they're going through so much and they're given so much out there, we need to fill ourselves up and be conscious of that. And I think the power hour in the morning is a great way to really fill your cup up first thing in the morning. That's a really great way. But yes, there's a lot to be mindful of, Elaine. There really is.
So when people wake up, I hear lots of people, um, and I experience and physically see people who they wake up and it's obvious that they haven't slept well. What can they do? What steps can they start to take to change things around for them? Because if you wake up tired, I mean that's just daft, isn't it? But it happens to so many people.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing as well that I just like to say is, you know, if you can get your sleep right 80% of the time, so many people want to have a good night of sleep every single night. That's not going to happen because life happens and we have circumstances. So if you can aim first of all to have 80% of your sleep to be well, right? So so just that being said, first of all, but many people do wake up feeling exhausted, even if they've had their 7 or 8 hours of sleep, and they're like, "What's going on? I'm still exhausted. Is something not working here?" So one thing I like to say to people is consider sleep apnea, because this is a breathing disorder, and many women, especially in midlife or after the menopause, seem to develop this. And a lot of it's to do with weight gain. An awful lot of the time, weight gain is the culprit for this, because it's restricting the airways. It's one of the biggest contributory factors. But sleep apnea causes this cessation of breath. It's where we kind of stop breathing temporarily, and then the brain kicks in and wakes us up to breathe. But we're not conscious of this all the time because we only have brief waking periods, but we don't remember. It's so short that we don't remember, but it's impacting our deep sleep. So we're not getting that deep sleep. Plus, we're being deprived of oxygen in the brain, and we absolutely need oxygen. So this is why a lot of people with sleep apnea who are undiagnosed, and there is a lot of people out there undiagnosed, this is why they feel they've brain fog first thing in the morning because of this depletion in oxygen, and also they haven't had sufficient levels of deep sleep. So this is one of the main reasons why people wake up feeling exhausted in the morning. Another thing, when people wake up tired in the morning, is a lot of people reach for the cup of coffee um, to help wake them up. And we know coffee is a stimulant, but what's actually happening is um, we need our body temperature to warm up again for wakefulness, and because temperature regulation plays a big role in our sleep wake cycle. So by drinking something warm will actually help to wake you up. It's not necessarily that it's caffeine that you're getting to your body, because it takes 15-20 minutes for caffeine to actually hit your brain. So having a warm hot drink can help to wake you up and get you out of that sleep inertia. But adapting the regular routines, get going to bed at the same time every night. If you do suspect sleep apnea, do go to your doctor and you can get a lab test done to rule it out, or maybe get treatment for it if that's the case. Um, but yeah, but that's typically what I hear quite a lot, Elaine, when it comes to people waking up and still feeling tired in the morning.
Mm. And sleep apnea definitely is on the rise. I never heard of it years ago.
Mm.
Well, we just didn't. But now I know lots of people who actually use this contraption kind of space mask thing that they use at night to help keep them going. And when I look at the people who are using those, when I think about it, many of them are overweight and they've
Yeah,
got other health issues, but the doctor never talks to them about those things. They just deal with the symptoms and never get to the root cause of the problem, which is again daft, but it's the way life is. Doctors are so busy being busy, they don't have time. I have a client who's a doctor, and a private doctor, and she said that in the National Health Service, the reason she came out was because they have 6-minute appointments, and in that 6 minutes, if somebody comes to you with 5 different symptoms, you've got to figure out very quickly which is the one that's likely to kill them if you don't deal with it. So nobody's getting the true service anymore.
yeah, it doesn't make sense. I mean, how can you get someone's whole history and background in that short space of
Yeah,
time? It doesn't make sense.
no, bonkers. So it's been wonderful hearing what you've been talking about sleep, Joanne. Perhaps we can have another call another time talking about mobile phones and EMFs.
Yeah,
I know
that'll be
you
a whole hour.
know a lot about that as well. It's fabulous.
Yeah, yeah.
So the top tips then would be what? So main top tips.
So I would say first thing in the morning when you wake up, get sunshine for at least 10-15 minutes. Sit outside, have your cup of coffee or whatever it is, sit outside, because that will reset your circadian rhythm. This is really important, to reset your circadian rhythm. Even if you've had a bad night of sleep, you can have a nap later on in the afternoon if you need to, but still wake up at the same time, because it's really important to maintain this circadian rhythm. So getting sunshine is really important. The next tip I would say is don't eat at least 3 hours before you go to bedtime, because it takes up to 3 hours for food to digest in your body, and your digestion actually slows down at nighttime as well. So your digestion itself is not effective at nighttime. So don't eat big heavy meals. Finish eating them 3 hours at least before you go to bed. Avoid caffeine and alcohol. Now, when I say avoid caffeine is okay to drink. I am a fan of caffeine. I like a cup of coffee myself, but don't drink too much caffeine later in the evening time, because it takes a long time to break down in the body, and it is a stimulant. So caffeine for that reason, and everybody is different, has different levels of sensitivity to caffeine. Alcohol will get you to sleep. It will probably knock you out, but it will fragment your sleep. It is a diuretic. You will get up more than likely to go to the bathroom, and it has been shown that it stops REM sleep. It inhibits REM sleep, which is where we dream. Also, I would say create a wind down routine at least 1 to 2 hours before you go to bed. And in that routine, do not use your mobile phones. Like, switch it off, put it onto flight mode. Some people bring their phones to bed to use it as an alarm clock. If you do, put it onto flight mode. You don't need to be keeping your phone or Wi-Fi on at nighttime while you're sleeping. So they'd be the main tips that I'd say to people.
Brilliant. And you touched on diet and nutrition and all the rest of it earlier on. And another thing I'd like to comment on, when I wake up in the morning, there's a song, I can't remember, I think it was the Monkeys that sang the song, and it's wake up sleepy Jean and wipe the sleep from your eyes or something. It's gross, absolutely. Every time I hear that I think, oh god, they're horrible. But I never have sleep in my eyes. I wake up, my eyes pop open around about 7, as I've said, and I'm awake, I'm right on it straight away, and I could tackle the world, the world's problems, and I never have sleep in my eyes. And I've realised that's because I eat cleanly. So the sleep in the eyes is a form of detoxing.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a form of detoxing. So it's your body expunging things it doesn't need. So within a few normally within an hour or so, most people have gone to the toilet and passed a bowel movement in that first time. And again, that's a healthy sign that your body is getting rid of what it doesn't need.
Yes.
Well, there's all kinds of things that are there that we can appreciate and give thanks for. That we've had a good night's sleep, we're healthy, we're well nourished, and so on and so forth, rather than concentrating on I can't sleep, because the more you concentrate on them, the more what you said, be careful what you wish for. So I wish
Absolutely.
everybody a very good night's sleep. And to buy your book, Joanne, where do they get hold of your book? Give us your
Yeah, it's on
contact
Amazon,
details.
so they can find it on Amazon, and it's also my own website, howtogetagoodnightsleep.com. And if you go to my own website, or johanncallaghan.com, Johann, johanncallaghan.com, long reason why my name is spelled Johann. Anyway, you will get the audio copy on my website as well. But the book itself is just available on Amazon.
Brilliant. Okay, so johanncallaghan.com or getagoodnightsleep.com.
How to get a good
How
night's
to.
sleep.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for your time today, and I look forward to another chat with you on phones and EMFs.
Fantastic. Thanks, Elaine. Have a great day.